In this month's cybersecurity video, we will be looking at something that is maybe not strictly cybersecurity, but very relevant in a world that has been hit by a global pandemic such as COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. It was an interesting and distressing to see how people reacted when they found out that South Africa was going to be subjected to a total lockdown. If it can be summarized in one word, the word would be panic. And why did people panic? Because they were not ready for this. Questions such as, how will my business survive? And I don't know what to do to prepare myself for this arose. The fact is that we will get through this, but there will always be another disaster or another crisis that we did not see coming. So in light of all of this, there is no better topic to discuss than creating a business continuity plan. In this video, we will take you on a step-by-step journey to create a simple but effective business continuity plan that you can use to make sure your business is prepared should such an event ever happen again. Now, there are many different methodologies out there and many ways of doing this, but what we will be presenting here is a bit of a hybrid, a combination of a few, but what we will also do is create templates for documents you're going to need to create your own, so that you can actually create your plan as you go along. This is a very practical plan and not based on complicated methodologies, so that any business can apply to their own business. The aim of this exercise is to complete all the tables in the business continuity plan and to make sure that you store at least one digital copy, have one printed out and filed in your office, and have at least 1 or 2 copies printed out and stored off-site, even at your house. So let's dive right into it. Step 1, basic business information. So the first step is to complete your basic business information. The reason for this is that in a catastrophic event, you may not be able to invoke your business continuity plan, and a member of staff that is not so familiar with all the company details may end up having to run with it. In that event, the employee needs to have all the information readily available. So as you can see in this first table, you will fill in all the basic information about your business. If you don't have an alternate business address, as many companies won't, this may be your home address, and even that needs to be filled in. Right towards the bottom of this form, you will see a reference to emergency contact information. This will be people like your local council for electricity, your ISP for if the internet or email goes down, and other people that you may need to contact in an emergency. This document will be the first document you grab in the event of having to start contacting people in case of a disaster event. So it is very important to complete this document and to keep it to hand at all times. Step 2. Business continuity and recovery planning team. The next list you need to create will be your business continuity and recovery planning team. These will be people that will be involved in running with things when there is a disaster, from the moment you declare the disaster until the moment your business is back up and running again. The CEO will typically be the coordinator, but there must always be an alternate to each of these roles where possible. In smaller businesses, this is not always possible, and then one person may have multiple roles. But in this exercise, you are required to take some time and think about your different business processes. Then decide which of these are important to get the business up and running again and complete their details in this table. It is very important for this group of people to have regular meetings, at least quarterly, to discuss if all is still well and to see if the process is still working for you. Step 3. Types of incidents. Next, we are going to look at the type of incidents we can plan for. These can also be included in your quarterly meetings and updated as you become aware of other things that could happen. They can simply be divided into 2 groups of events, namely external, such as fire, floods and power outages, and internal, such as theft, loss of data and hardware failure. Try and think out of the box here. No one could, for example, have predicted the outbreak of COVID-19 in 2019 and 2020, but look at the massive impact it has had on business in all countries. Step 4. Critical assets. In this step, we are going to list our critical assets, those things that if they are taken away will have a major impact on our business. They can be divided into 6 broad groups, namely people, buildings, equipment, data, inventory, and operations. For each of these categories, list the assets that help make your business successful. You can list the employee names, your major customers, and your major vendors under people. Under buildings, you can list your actual building, storage unit, storefront, whatever other buildings are critical to your business. Under equipment, you will typically list office equipment or vehicles, depending on the type of business you are in. The list here contains some examples: computers, software, networks, etc. Data includes digital but also physical records such as contracts, payroll, and HR documentation. Inventory or stock will be the items you sell or the raw material you need to create your product and that you would keep on hand. Under operations, you will list any disruption to the things that make your business run, such as your factory or manufacturing process, accounts receivable, accounts payable, etc. Step 5. Critical operations. In this step, you will list all your critical operations, the most important operations in your business. In the table for this step, you will identify the staff in charge, the equipment needed, the suppliers or contractors you use, and what you will need to do to get this process up and running after a minor disaster, but also after a major disaster. You need to think of all your critical operations and create a table like this for each one of them. If you feel that all your operations are critical, then create a table for each operation. You can never overplan when it comes to business continuity. Step 6. Key suppliers and contractors. In each business, we have suppliers or service providers that we rely on to keep our business running. They could supply the raw materials we use to provide a service, such as our internet connection, but without them, our business would just not run as smoothly as can. In this step, we need to list each of the key suppliers and what it is they supply to us. It's also very important to list our alternate supplier for this product or service. If you don't have an alternate supplier, take some time to think of one, because if a major disaster hits, it may affect one of those suppliers too, and then you may need a backup to continue running your business. Again, follow this step for every key supplier you have. Step 7. Computer inventory. In case of a fire or theft, it may be that some or all of your computer hardware is stolen or destroyed. If you have a general insurance policy for your business, you may not have to specify the make and model of each computer or list all the software you use. This will mean that if you have to replace it, you will not necessarily know what was stolen and needs to be replaced. So a computer hardware and software inventory, such as in this example, will help you a lot. Record all hardware according to model, serial number, where it was purchased, and the value in this list, and where possible, file the invoices with the list. Do the same for software, because in most cases, we download software these days, and the serial number is sent via email. If we don't back up our emails, we will lose the serial numbers and may have to pay for the software again. It is very important to keep this list and to make sure that you update it at least once a month. It will be a lifesaver in the event of a fire. Of course, it goes without saying that you need to back up everything regularly to at least 2 different locations. One could be an external storage device that you do not keep in the same place as your computers, and the other could be a cloud storage location or by making use of a third party. Just remember to add them to your list of key suppliers and contractors as well. Step 8. Staff notification. Now we are moving into the realm of what to do when the actual disaster strikes. Say there was a fire at the office or some or other major disaster strikes and you and your staff cannot come to the office. You need to be able to contact them, and this needs to be a coordinated effort to ensure that chaos does not ensue and to keep your staff calm and unified. This is a very simple table that just contains the details of how staff will be notified and who will notify them. But a few things to consider here is that a phone tree is not always the best option, because if one person is non-responsive, the communications could break down, and if people phone other people, the message can become distorted. We have all seen the game Broken Telephone, where we start with an original message and by the time it comes out the other end, it has completely changed. So rather get 1 or 2 responsible people to deal with staff communication, or in a large company, the executive team can be relied on to communicate with high direct reports and their subordinates. This next list contains the basic information for each staff member and a backup that must be closely related to the staff member. This is a family member or something like that. Make sure that this information is also available for each staff member and close to hand. Step 9. Key business contact notification. It is of course important for you to also be able to make contact with your customers and vendors if you find yourself in a business continuity situation. So it is important to have a list of contact details of your most important customers available so that you can keep them in the loop as to what is going on with your disaster recovery efforts and also how it will affect them. In order to do this, you can keep a similar list as you did for your key vendors and also make sure that this document is stored safely and is readily available. Step 10. Succession planning. In one of the earlier slides, we spoke about having a backup for each person in the disaster management team, and this step builds on that. The truth is that in an unfortunate event, some staff may become totally incapacitated, go missing, or even die. It is important to think of these things before they happen and to have a plan in the case of the worst case scenario. So for each leader in the company, you would have to create a succession plan by identifying a person to take over that leader's role on a temporary or even more permanent basis if the original person is not able to do so. It may be that there is no perfect fit when you do this exercise, so it is a great opportunity for you to think who you could identify as closely as possible to take over from you or other leaders, and then to start mentoring this person in case there is a need. It is, of course, important to note that this will not only apply to leaders in the company. We often have key staff that are not in leadership roles, but that are still very important to our business, and we need to identify a successor for them as well. Populate a table like this for each of your leaders and each of your key staff members. Step 11. Insurance. It goes without saying that in the event of a disaster, there will be some losses, and therefore it is important to sort your insurance out before such an event. Insurance is often a grudge purchase, but could literally save your business. So it is important to have the discussions with your team and to call on an insurance company to discuss what types of cover your business will need to protect you against most incidents. Make sure that you have a basic contact details of your insurance company or broker as per this list so that you can contact them when a disaster strikes. Remember, most insurers require you to inform them of an incident within a certain amount of time from when it occurred. So it is very important to have their contact details readily available. Then keep a list of the types of policies you have, the policy number, what is covered, and how much it will pay out as per this list. It will help you, or in the case that you are not available, the person that has to step in for you to be able to contact the insurer with confidence. Step 12. Risk Assessment Matrix. Now, if you have gone through the steps and have created all these lists, you'll be much more prepared to continue with business operations if a disaster strikes or you are not able to access the office. The final step is to do a risk assessment for each of the eventualities you identified earlier in this process. The risk assessment can be a great tool for you to determine what your major risks are and to plan contingencies for each eventuality before it happens. It comprises a risk matrix where you rate the impact an event will have on each of the critical assets you identified earlier. In the risk matrix, you will list the type of event and then score it according to the impact it will have on each of your critical assets. Where a 1 is negligible, meaning that it will have little or no impact, and a 4 is catastrophic, meaning it is the worst case scenario. So take all of the possible events you have identified earlier and run them through this risk matrix to see which ones will have the worst impact on your business. We have done an example using COVID-19 to show you the impact a pandemic like this could have on a typical business. In this worked example, you will see that we rated it a 3 under people, but if someone or a few people were infected, that could go to a 4. The building is rated as a 4 because we cannot access it due to the national lockdown. Equipment is a 2 because we don't have access to all equipment, but we have access to most of it and we can continue working for the most part. Data is rated a 1 because we can access all company and customer data remotely. Inventory is rated at a 2 because a number of products are digital and can be delivered digitally, but in some cases we do require hardware and that business will then be affected. Operations is rated at a 2 because even though we are able to work remotely, there has been an impact on some of our operations. This leaves us with a rating of 14 out of 24, which is not the worst case, but clearly it still does affect the business. Your business may rate these items differently for the specific event, but it's a very fruitful exercise to do this for each perceived threat, so that, as we have stated, you can plan in advance for those events that will have a major impact on your business. We wish to remind you that LawTrust offers a number of tools that can assist you with business continuity during this time, one of which is our original digital signing products that will enable you to continue signing important business documents and contracts in a legal and compliant way without even having to leave your seat. Visit us at www.lawtrust.co.za. Until next time, Stay safe online.